from Nashville, Tennessee. It's the Three. And here's your host, Laura Harris-Smith.
Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Harris-Smith, and welcome to The Three. I'm so excited about today's episode because I've invited back on a good friend of mine. You're very familiar with her, author and filmmaker Lorraine Marie Varela. Welcome back.
Thank
Lorraine,
you
you're such
so
a good friend.
much.
We see each other all the time, or we talk to each other all the time, but we discovered today, just did the math, we haven't seen each other in probably 6 years.
6 years.
You were on in 2018. It was either season 1 or season 2. We shot 2 that year. But you were here for your book, Love in the Face of ISIS.
Yes.
And I remember I invited you onto my show, even though we were both Baker authors.
Correct.
Okay. I saw that title and I was like, I want to know that person.
Amazing.
And now look what has happened. The book's had a resurgence in the last year because of everything that's going on in the world. So tell us a little bit about that first, that project.
I don't know if you know this, Laura, but the reason that I wrote Love in the Face of ISIS was that I was at a writers' conference up in Seattle where I was living, and I chose to go to this conference just to connect with a woman who was a Baker representative. Because my first book was in publication, was in production with Chosen Books.
Okay.
And I was just so thankful. I was so thankful for them taking a chance on me that I just wanted to say thank you to everybody I could. And so Kim was there, and she was giving a
Kim Bangs?
Kim Bangs.
Okay.
Yeah. So Kim Bangs was there, and she was giving this little talk about how do you get a publisher to be interested in your book. And I thought, well, I already know this. I was like, like when you're first time, you just think you've got it all in the bag.
Right.
But I'm going to sit through your lecture anyway. And so there were 9 of us in the class, and she gave us an exercise to do what she was talking about. You have to have a good hook. You have to have a good title.
Okay.
You have to have a good summary to get the publisher interested. And so she separated us into 3 groups of 3. And let's just say that your group got to talk about, write a book on a cookbook for roadkill. That was one of the assignments. You write a cookbook for roadkill. The other group got to do a current event. So just pick any current event of today, and that's what they got to talk about. And then she looked to me and my 2 people, and she says, and you're going to write about ISIS in the Middle East. And the minute that she said that, I had a vision. And in the vision, I was seated in heaven looking at the earth from God's perspective. And I knew in that moment it would be a book about prayer. How do we pray heaven to earth? Because if you can take yourself back to 2015, ISIS had only been on the world stage for 1 year. And it was still very much in the news. As we know today, it's a similar experience, only so much more heightened when we see what's happened in Israel and with the Palestinians and all of the uprising. And now I don't know if you've seen on social media where the hashtag initially was Hamas is ISIS. And then it started to switch to just Hamas ISIS, making it one and the same, because as you know, in the spirit, it is the same spirit in the spiritual realm. Wow. So when I was in that meeting, we did this little exercise. We came up with this idea of what this book would be about. And I just thought, that's really good. I wonder who's going to write that book. It's just like, are you kidding? I'm not kidding. It's like, that's going to be great. Somebody's going to have a really good time with this. And I'm like, oh, I think I'm supposed to write this. Wow. And so I went to Kim and I shared this, inspiration. She said, well, why don't you just write it as a blog post? And I thought, I don't think that's what God has for this. And she goes, well, take it to your editor and see what she says.
Okay.
And so I took it to my editor and was flabbergasted by the response, because later I found out that there had been many people who had been submitting proposals on this subject, but it just didn't have the right fit for their company.
Okay.
Right. And so I got a phone call from my editor, our editor, about 7 o'clock in the evening one day. And she says, Lorraine, I've been talking to everybody in the team, and we all really like this idea, but we're not sure you can write. So because we're not sure that you can write, I know.
What?
It was humbling, for
I
sure.
was going to say, what?
Because we're not sure that, because my first book, I'll just have to say, she was being very honest. I appreciate the honesty. My first book was a devotional. And it was just thoughts that God had put into my spirit, and there wasn't a lot of actual development of writing.
All right.
So she wasn't sure that I could handle a full manuscript.
Yes,
a
what
full
she
book.
meant was devotional writing is different than this meaty topic. I get it.
And
Okay.
I understood that. And so she says, so because we are not sure about that part, we need you to write a full chapter for us so we can get a sense of, your writing ability.
And you're like, okay, this time tomorrow I'll be done with it. Because I know you're like so fast.
No.
What?
No.
What?
She said, this time tomorrow.
She did?
She said, within 24 hours, we need to have a full chapter. We need to have this chapter by chapter synopsis of what everything is going to be.
I was kidding, but
and,
wow.
And we need to have you write, why are you the person to write this? Basically, it was a full-on book proposal within 24 hours.
Yep.
I'm like, done. Okay, let's do it. And obviously, it's not me. It had to be
It
the
had
Lord.
to be the
It had to be the
Lord.
Lord. So I was driving
That's
home.
amazing.
I get home, and I'm like, where do I even begin?
Yeah.
Where do I start with this chapter 1? And I think I went down the rabbit hole called YouTube for like 2 hours.
I've been in that rabbit hole.
Before it's like, I maybe got like a little snippet. And so I went to bed, gave it to God, and went to bed.
Okay, I like that idea.
And I woke up in the morning, I think bright and early, 6 a.m., and I got into the presence of God. So God, this has to be from you. And so I'm on my knees and I'm praying, and I get an inspiration or a Holy Spirit revelation. I get up and I would write one sentence or maybe one paragraph, and I'd be back on my knees. And that happened all day long until that first chapter was complete. And it's
I never knew that.
Exactly with our editor's help. The way it is in Love in the Face of ISIS, the book. So,
incredible.
And I give a lot of credit to our editor. She was so gracious, and she says, when you tell the story, please let people know that the reason that I gave you such a short time frame is that we were so excited about this title. We wanted to reopen the publishing calendar to squeeze you in so that it could come out on time. And so we had already passed the deadline, and so time was racing. So after that moment, then I was just overwhelmed with this. I had a 12-week assignment to write this book that had never been in my heart. And I say this to people a lot. We often carry ideas and thoughts in our hearts that are books that are ruminating there for a long, long time before they come to fruition. This was like, I went to a conference 2 weeks later. It is the anniversary of ISIS taking over in the Middle East. It was June 10th. Got to get my days right. June 10th, 2015. It was my dad's birthday. That's how I know
that's
too.
why you remembered.
But June 10th, 2015, and we're now at another conference in Northern California that we had arranged just to connect with our editor. Because again, I'm going from place to place. Thank you, Chosen Books. Thank you. I love you. Thank you so much. Really, thank you.
Yeah.
And so we had already planned 6 months in advance that we were going to go to this conference just to reconnect with our editor and say thank you. And while we were sitting in that conference, we're listening to 2 filmmakers speak about screenwriting in Hollywood. And to be honest, I don't care what they're talking about, because I'm just thinking, that morning I got the contract. I'm thinking, how am I going to do this?
You're somewhere else.
Well, we were going to go to Jordan and interview Iraqi Christian refugees. And so my mind is in another space. You know how you're just filling the seat, but you're not really paying attention. You're kind of listening.
Yeah.
And one of the filmmakers said, how do you get a filmmaker to be interested in your movie? You have to have a good hook. It has to sound like a movie we haven't seen before. And, tell an interesting story. And we need to get it just by the title alone. And my husband, Gabriel, was sitting next to me, and he says, the name of your book is a hook for a movie, Love in the Face of ISIS. And I said, you're right. And I said to God, you're right.
Wow.
But Lord, this is a book about prayer. If you want this to be a movie.
I have the book. It is a book about prayer.
Yeah.
What I would like to do is, and I love you for that, because then I became your friend and I learned your heart for prayer. So I'm genuinely, when I recommend the book to you, I can genuinely say it came from a place that you understand prayer does not lead to the greater work. Prayer is the greater work. And I love that about you. When we come back from the break, I want to go more into, you are a filmmaker. You do everything. You're a photographer. There's really nothing you don't do. You look up creative in the dictionary and it says, see Lorraine Varela. But I want to get into the other project that you have coming up. All right?
Perfect.
So stick around and we will be right back after the break. Some people don't yet realize that essential oils were put by God into our leaves, trees, flowers, and grasses on the third day of creation, all to promote health, provide prevention, and yes, even cures. Other people get that, but maybe they've never had any real success with one particular essential oil, which is why I create oil blends, giving you a better chance for a positive result with numerous health benefits. But there's one thing we all agree upon, and that is that essential oils smell good. They fill up a room with any mood that you need, anytime that you need it. We call it aromatherapy. But maybe you don't know the science behind why aromatherapy works. You see, we inhale through our nasal passages, and the nasal passages have direct access to the limbic brain, which is the emotional center of the brain. This means that scent is immediately tied to mood, but that's good news because you can change your mood by merely changing the aroma in your room. It's like therapy in a bottle. And that's why we call it aromatherapy. At Neuromatics Oil, we take the business of aromatherapy very seriously. We offer you a wide variety of options. Candles, diffuser sets, nasal inhalers, even diffuser jewelry so that you can wear your essential oils all day long. Quiet Brain for natural relief from insomnia, anxiety, headache, and more. Happy Brain to lift mood and even help with appetite suppression and depression. And Sharp Brain to help with focus and cognitive memory issues. Naturally, the oil blends themselves, applied topically on the skin, are going to provide faster and more potent relief. But if you're looking for a way to enjoy our oil blends without using them on the skin, aromatherapy is for you. And Neuromatics Oil has you covered. Go to lauraharrismith.com/CTN or use your phone and scan the QR code on your screen with your camera app. Or call 1-855-784-3827. That's 1-855-QUIET-BRAIN.
1-855-784-3827. That's 1-855-QUIET-BRAIN.
Did you know that there are more than 600 Bible references to aromatic plants and essential oils? Did you know that once upon a time they were our only medicines? They're still medicine today. You see, God made plants and their essential oils to support your health. They're drug-free remedies that can be used from the comfort of your own home with little to no side effects. And although only 5% of natural products get patented, my oil blends, Quiet Brain, Happy Brain, and Sharp Brain, did, because third-party lab tests proved that they crossed the blood-brain barrier with potent relief for everything from migraines to memory loss, insomnia, anxiety, seizures, weight problems, even depression. So go to neuromaticsoil.com today to see my patented oil blends, and there are dozens of therapeutic products, healing lotions, bubble baths, nasal inhalers, even shampoo and conditioners, all created by our family for the health of yours. Go to lauraharrismith.com/CTN or call 1-855-784-3827. 1-855-784-3827. That's 1-855-QUIET-BRAIN. Welcome back to The Three, everybody. I'm Laura Harris-Smith. So glad that you're watching today. And I'm with my good friend, Lorraine Marie Varela. We've just been discussing, I just call her Lorraine. She is so multi-talented. And Lorraine, I know we've been discussing your book, Love in the Face of ISIS, which is not new. And you even said that by the time this idea came, ISIS had been on the scene only about a year. It's now been 10 years.
I know.
You know, everything started in 2014 with ISIS, and so we are 10 years on the other side of this. God has really pricked your heart for the people of the Middle East. I mean, He has done such a work in you. So take us then from that project to what came next. I was going to say where you are now, but take us along the journey of what's been happening in your life creatively.
Well, thankfully, the directors that were speaking that night at the conference saw the value in the story that God had given to me, because He showed it to me. It's like I saw it on the screen, and I presented it to the directors that the next night, and they just said, "I love it. I love every bit of it. This movie's gold. Do you want me to make your movie?" And I'm like, "Yes." And he said, "Have you ever done anything like this before?" And I said, "No. I'd never read a screenplay." And I said, "But I know that God is in it. Give me a year, and a year from today, I'll have a screenplay for you." Okay. And so a year from that day, the screenplay was finished miraculously. I'm just going to say it was a miracle of God that it was finished. But along the way, the Lord just gave us so much grace to write, gave us so much grace to be able to do the things that we do so that I could write the script.
Yes.
We went into Jordan to interview Iraqi Christian refugees who had fled from ISIS, heard their stories, I met a woman who was born in Baghdad. Her father was Muslim, her mother was Christian. I'm like, I need to know your story. So I let her story be the foundation of the characters that God had given me to write about. What does that look like?
That's what I love about you guys. You're not going to just base your writings on conjecture. You want to get to know the people and the main players. So
well, and it was more
amazing.
than that too. It was coming to Jordan, I realized I had so many misconceptions about the Middle Eastern people. I had thought, it's just kind of crazy. You know, we live in a Western mindset. And we watch a lot of Western mindset films. And so it kind of shapes our worldview.
It's true.
So when I went in to go meet these people, I had like this awakening, like, oh my goodness, they are just like us. There's no difference. I don't know why I thought there would be a difference. But I remember meeting this young man who was a father, he had children, a wife, and then their lives are upended immediately. You know, ISIS comes in, and he who had been helping other people escape from ISIS, now he's on the run. And like, I'm asking him, well, what was your family life like before? He goes, well, I worked 2 jobs. I'm trying to put food on the table. I'm like, you sound so American.
Wow, that's right. Everybody.
Like, you know, just kind of doing life. And he says, and I feel like my heart was blackened towards God, like he didn't have enough time. So it's like, we could so relate to his story. And so the Lord just put me in touch with all these different people, and through their stories, I was able to weave together one cohesive story drama for this film. So it's not just based out of thin air, but also what I learned was that there was an origin to the group called ISIS. And what is their origin story, and presenting it to an American audience, because we don't know.
I've never even thought about that. What do you mean by that?
Well,
ISIS's like origin story.
Well, what causes a young person to be willing to behead another? I mean, what brings a young boy to that place where he could be doing such acts of violence? And so the more that I studied and learned from my friends who were raised in the Middle East, they were raised in a culture of violence. There was war their entire life. Wow. I had some friends who were walking to school, and they'd have to walk over dead bodies on their way to school. Or you see bombs going off in the distance. When you are so desensitized to all that stimuli, it doesn't make, it's not a huge leap to go, you can go from here to then harming somebody else. And a lot of it was self-preservation. Some of it was greed. There was sectarian violence of neighbor against neighbor. And so that was where some of the dead bodies came from.
I see.
So it was just really interesting what happens to a child who's raised in that culture and then is indoctrinated to say, this is how we will behave.
So then what happened with that movie project?
What happened with that movie project?
What happened with the movie project?
Well, I think I got to experience what the pain of a lot of other filmmakers. And you know, you have probably experienced this in your life. We have sometimes entered into projects and stewarded things that God's put into our hands, and it's been easy. It's like that commercial. You press the easy button, and it's just the doors open. Hello, love in the face of ISIS, the prayer book. Okay, I'll do this. And so I felt like, oh, this is going to be just easy. And the script was hard fought to be able to do it, but it was good. It was, and it is good. But the rest of it wasn't so easy. And I feel like the Lord allowed me to go through this 10-year journey, almost 9 years actually, of going through the different processes. But along the way, every time I would get discouraged, he would bring like a sign, a wonder, like a signpost, like, no, this is the way, walk in it.
Okay. Well, I obviously want to find out what happened next. They want to know what happened next, and then there's so much else we can cover. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back after the break. Stay close. So you're on our website trying to select your favorite products, or maybe put a gift package together for a friend. Well, we've done the work for you. Our Pause package encourages rest and contains 1 Quiet Brain Healing Lotion, therapeutic bubble bath, and a Quiet Brain 50-hour burn candle. Our Uplift package gives you a real mood boost with a Happy Brain candle, healing lotion, and bubble bath. The Self-Care package contains the Quiet Brain Healing Lotion, bubble bath, and healing shampoo and conditioner. Our Awaken package is made with our Sharp Brain Blend and includes 1 nasal inhaler, 1 dropper bottle of oil, 1 bottle of healing lotion, and a Sharp Brain candle. The Sweet Dreams package is popular because it contains 1 dropper bottle of Quiet Brain oil, 1 satin sleep eye mask, and a copy of my best-selling book, Seeing the Voice of God, What God is Telling You Through Dreams and Visions. And don't forget our Quiet Brain gift box, our best value, with a sampling of almost all Quiet Brain products. 1 Whisper Quiet Nightlight Diffuser, 1 Dropper Bottle of Oil, a nasal inhaler, candle, shampoo and conditioner set, and even a satin sleep eye mask. But my personal favorite is our trio oil sets that allow you to sample all 3 of our patented neuromatic oil blends while only paying for 2. They're available in dropper bottles, rollerball bottles, and our eyedropper pump bottle. Scan the QR code on your screen, go to lauraharrissmith.com/CTN, or call 1-855-784-3827. That's 1-855-QUIET-BRAIN.
1-855-784-3827. That's 1-855-QUIET-BRAIN.
Hi everybody, I'm Laura. Welcome back to The Three. We are here today with one of the most creative people that I know in the whole wide world, and I know a lot of creative people. But Lorraine, you were telling us about your book, Love in the Face of ISIS. First of all, let's see the book. And we were talking during the break, this could be called Love in the Face of Hamas.
Correct.
It's the same spirit. It's
Yes.
the same exact spirit, and even some of the same players, honestly.
Absolutely.
So this springboards us into the film, your project. It is in production.
Yes.
You are making this film, I really believe, with the heart of God. Tell us where the project is now and what we can do to help.
Right. Well, the project is in pre-production, as you said. So basically, we have a team that is working together to bring in finances.
Okay.
I think every creative filmmaker, independent filmmaker, understands the heartache of having a project that you're stewarding and trying to steward well, knowing it comes from God and knowing that it can be cinematic and creative and impact a generation, but you just don't have the funds to put it into motion. So we're in that boat.
Okay.
That's where we are. But you know what, along the way, God has brought us just into some amazing encounters as we have been developing this project. We were able to go into Iraq in 2019, pre-COVID, and scout out locations, but not so much locations, but get a feel for the land, get a feel for the people, get a feel for the story, because there's nothing like setting your feet in the places that God would have you go and the places where things actually happen. We weren't in Mosul where the violence took place, but we could see the sign, Mosul this way, and it was about 30 miles away. We just didn't have a visa. If I had a visa to get into Mosul, we would have been in Mosul.
You know what sets you apart from so many of the creative people that I know is that you have a real heart for prophecy. You want to be where God wants you. There's no worse place to be than where God was.
Absolutely.
And you follow him, you obey him, you love his voice. And that's what separates you from somebody who just picks a topic and writes about it. Like, you want to go and immerse and feel. And so I know that God will breathe on this project, but you need partners. You need people to help you do. So tell us the website that we can go to.
Our website is inspiringfaith.us.
Okay.
There's very little publicly spoken about the film on the website, but it does give you a sense of who we are, what God has brought us to do, and
Well, that's typical pre-production. So you don't want to give everything away right up front.
Laura, I just want to say, if anybody contacts us through inspiringfaith.us, that what we have is a visual treatment that talks about the story, talks about the origin, shows some pictures of the refugees that we met and how their stories got unfolded. Some pictures from Iraq, some pictures from Malta, where we did location scouting in 2019.
You said you had a story that you want. I want to hear that one story about that. Yeah.
Oh, when we were in Iraq, in Erbil, Iraq, in 2019, we were in this old citadel. It's thousands of years old, one of the oldest citadels in the world. And we were having tea with one of our Muslim friends who brought us into the citadel. And we sat there for probably up in this upper level for like 3 hours, 2 hours. And so finally, after so much time, you need to use the restroom. So the restroom was blocked, but I saw some ladies going in. So I'm following these ladies in. And while we're in the restroom, do you know ladies talk in the restrooms?
Yes.
So I meet this
in any country, evidently.
I meet this young woman. She has my daughter's name, Alyssa, and she found out that I had written Love in the Face of ISIS. And she says, I can't believe you're the woman who wrote this book. This book is the reason that I'm in Iraq. God called me to the mission field through this book. It was so crazy.
Oh my goodness.
In a bathroom in Iraq. So,
but the Lord wanted you to know that writing is a very hidden work.
Yeah.
I know that, and you sometimes will get, you know those people are out there, but when you meet one of them, it's so good. Of the Lord. It's like a God wink.
It is. But one of the other things that I wanted to say also is that, when we think about ISIS, again, as a Westerner, we tend to think of things that are only current events, and then they fade and they go away from our
Sure.
memory. So when I wrote this, it was 9 years ago or 8 years ago, and, ISIS kind of dropped off our collective conscious.
Right.
But until October of this last year, when we saw what happened in Israel, and again, it's the same spirit
Yeah.
that came to the surface.
Oh yeah, they didn't go away for 8 or 9
they didn't
years.
go
Yeah.
away. And so because of that, because we saw what was trending on social media, Hamas is ISIS or hashtag Hamas ISIS,
Right.
some of the same players, like you said, were, in this incursion.
Or their children.
Or their children. Yeah, hadn't even thought of that. But so we thought about the script that we needed to have a new ending. And instead of ending
Look at
in the
that.
year 2014, we end in 2024. And again, interwoven throughout the story is the appearance of the man in white, very, very familiar to the Middle Eastern
Yes.
people.
Yes.
Not so familiar to us in America. But we see the man in white again making a resurfacing in Gaza and what his intent is for those people. So
I have heard Marilyn Hickey is
Yes.
just a sweet friend of
Yeah.
mine, and she tells me stories that Jesus
Yeah.
in white is walking through the walls and converting Muslims
yeah.
himself.
It's so
He's
crazy.
Just,
So
because
many
because
stories.
there are so many laws and restrictions and whatever, and she's
Yeah.
the mother of Pakistan. They let her in to do anything, but Jesus himself,
Yeah.
he is walking through walls and winning souls.
Well, one of the stories that this film is based on is a young woman who was, when she was a child, had a visitation of the man in white in her bedroom while she was
Really?
playing. Her father was Muslim, her mother was Christian, and she had this knowing that who he was. His name
Wow.
was Yeshua, the Aramaic for his name. And so when she became a little older and she's in Muslim training in her school, the teacher, who was state-sponsored, comes into the school and is teaching these Muslim children about the prophet Isa. And when she hears that name, she has this spiritual download. You know what a spiritual download
Yeah.
is like. You know what that's like. And she has this as a child. And she was just very
Wow.
bold. And she raised her hand and says, no, his name's not Isa, his name's Yeshua. And the teacher goes into a demonic rage.
I
And she
bet.
comes and she just whips this child out of her seat and starts beating her on her feet, on the soles of her feet with a rod, so that she would beat her into submission so she would never make that mistake again.
Goodness.
And with the permission of this woman, we ended up unfolding that story as one of the
Wow.
escalating incidents in the movie, the film, that does
So that will be shown in the
Yes.
film. Oh my goodness, I cannot wait.
Yes.
Okay, give us a website one more time.
Inspiringfaith.us.
People, come on. This is what you guys know how to do. Go to the website on your screen and partner with the Varelas in making this film. It's important. It is on the heart of God. So I guarantee you will have his blessing if you will do it. Lorraine.
Thank you.
Oh,
my
it is so good
friend.
to see you. I wish we had another episode. But
Okay.
you got to come back.
Okay.
You got to come
Thank
back.
you so
All right.
much.
Another great episode of The Three, everybody. So good to be with you. I'm Laura Harris-Smith. See you next time.